I was very lucky to spend a couple of hours yesterday together with you and the team of Chubby fine-tuning the system here. And it is amazing how good it was sounding at the beginning, but how exceptional it became by the end. And you could maybe talk a little bit about...
Okay, so talk about all the technologies that are in this system.
Yes, it will be fun.
There's a lot of technology here, so get comfortable.
Lehalkítanád? Mehet egy barkóba? 6 lába van, a füledbe mászik, sztereóban duruzsol, szinte kiírthatatlan, és mégis szerethető. Na, megvan?
Hifi Bogár. Hallgasd az AudioMe podcastját, ahol mindenről is beszélgetünk hifi témakörben.
Most már felhangosíthatod. Hifi Bogár, Hifi Bogár, Hifi Bogár.
Tökéletes hangot szállítunk. AudioMe.
Szervusztok, kedves Hifi Bogár podcast hallgatók! Ez egy rendhagyó felvétel, egy rendhagyó adás, egy angol nyelvű adás, és a Home Movie bemutatóterméből jelentkezünk. A mai adásunknak az apropóját több minden adja. Az egyik az, hogy a Home Movie egy csodálatos új bemutatóteremmel bővítette a főhadiszállását, és itt tartózkodunk most, nem mellékesen top high-end szintet képviselő Linn elektronikákkal, és ezeket az eszközöket mutatták be a Csabiék ma egy bemutató keretében, és ezt a bemutatót nem más tartotta, mint Michael O'Rourke, aki a Linn nemzetközi értékesítési menedzser és üzletfejlesztési menedzsere. Itt van velünk, vele fogunk beszélgetni a Linn technológiákról, zenéről és sok minden másról. Vágjunk bele, és lássuk, hogy mit kell tudni a Linn múltjáról, jelenéről és jövőjéről. So Michael, thank you for being with us today. First, can you please share with us about some details about your background and how you came to Linn?
I basically just came across an ad for a good, cool sounding job. So I was in marketing beforehand. It was a job that I didn't really enjoy that much, and I was looking for a new job, and I found this job for this company where it was like brand ambassador in the events team, and when you read the job description, it was for the USA as well. And essentially it was going to send you to the United States of America to stand and do presentations, talk about music and Pink Floyd and play with really expensive, amazing sounding hi-fi systems. And I was like, sign me up. So that was how I kind of came across Linn. Previously to Linn, I'd, as I said, worked in marketing, but this is the same story you'll hear from most people that work at Linn. I played in bands and for a long time as well. So music was always such a big passion. So it was...
What's your instrument?
Well, I'm a drummer, so okay, not a musician. I hang around with the musicians and play the drums. But so I played drums in bands for years. So to get to work in music, and for music is the soul and heart of everything we do, is an absolute privilege. So then that was 7 years ago. I joined Linn in the events team, and it was events and training, and then I moved into business development. So now I do business development for our distribution markets, like Hungary.
Yeah, it must have been a blast to join a company which has so big reputation, more than 50 years in audio.
It was pretty cool. But the funny thing about it, it's such a niche world hi-fi that even though it's a Glasgow company, I lived down the road from it, I didn't actually know much about Linn. I had a very basic hi-fi system, like a total price would have been like £400 for this turntable, integrated amp and speakers. And then, the most exciting thing was, like when you're in the interview, they say to you, they sit you in front of, but like, it was like the system that this, took over from, it was our 350 system, sit you down in this interview and they say, pick a song, and you're like, oh, and then you hear it like you've never heard it before. Yeah. So that was the best thing, was just listening to music that you'd never heard it like that before.
Yeah, Linn has been a prominent name in audio for many decades, actually over 50 years. How do you think the company has stayed relevant in an industry that has changed so much over time?
Of course. I think it's because the ethos of how it was started hasn't really changed. And everything, it comes from exactly the same ethos. So started with Ivor with the turntable back in 1973. And really what he was doing was he designed a turntable that protected the signal. So he realized if you put rubbish in, you can only get rubbish out. And so by doing it right at the source, he was able to get so much more information, so much more music, which is actually what it's about. So everything we're doing is about trying to get more music out of that groove of the record, more music out of the digital stream. And our philosophy has always been, pushing the boundaries, being pioneering. And that's over our 50 years, we have come up with pioneering technologies, pioneering products that push the boundaries more and more and more and more. So I think that's how we stay relevant, because we've still such a huge investment into research and development. And, you know, when you look at some of these products, which I'm sure we'll get into, like, it's exactly the same thing. We're just looking at the whole hi-fi chain and engineering where the problems are, solving those so that you get more music, so the customer gets transported to the concert hall, the jazz club, whatever it is, they feel the music.
So you're trying to preserve as much of the signal as possible.
Exactly.
And lowering distortion to the
100%.
to the lowest levels possible.
And I think exactly.
Easy to say, very difficult to achieve.
And 100%, because I think that's why when you say how you stay relevant, I think we stay relevant because we've stayed true to what we did back in 1973 to now. That's how we stay relevant, is we stay pioneering, we push the boundaries, and we keep bringing out more and more, even more impressive technologies and products that have one goal at the end, is to bring you closer to the music.
So Linn has always been at the forefront of analog audio, starting with the LP12. And you were the pioneers of digital streaming as well.
Yep.
Can you identify any guiding idea that keeps you in the front in both digital and analog, even today?
I think it comes back to the fact that we put so much investment back into R&D, into the company, into the machining, which is why we're able to come out with things like our homegrown organic DAC, for example. Because we put so much investment back into that, it means that we can stay at the front of that. So we aren't just trying to, you know, do better than the last product we did. We're not trying to just do better than the competition. Our R&D engineers are given the time and space to go back to first principles on a lot of these products. Go back and look at what's the inherent issues. So they're given the space and time to do that, to design really revolutionary, pioneering jumps forward in audio. And a lot of that is because we're still a family-owned company. We're still an independent company. So, as you said, Ivor pioneered it with the turntable in 1973. Gilad, his son, who came through R&D, who is our CEO, he really pushed forward with the streaming in 2007. And I think because we're still in the family...
2007 already.
Yeah, 2007. Because it's, you know, still in the family, and there's still passion there, all goes back into R&D, all goes back into our machining capabilities, which means we can push the boundaries and create even better products.
And what I particularly like is the upgrade path here offered to your customers, both in analog, both in digital.
It's been a cornerstone of everything we've done. And I think that's part of what makes us such a compelling proposition. That's the longest running product in hi-fi, the LP12 turntable, 1973. So someone can buy that and upgrade all the different elements as we bring out, as technology allows us to bring out improvements, big audio improvements for that customer. Or if the customer starts in at the entry level, they've got somewhere to go. They don't have to chuck their turntable away and start again. They can best buy the upgrade and they get this whole new performance out of their turntable. I have an LP12 myself, and so when I do the upgrade, it's amazing because you spend, you know, less than you spent at the beginning, but it feels like a whole new turntable. So you have to go through all your records again and re-feel the music and hear how much better the record now sounds than it did before you got the upgrade.
I wanted to ask if you still listen to analog, but you answered
100%.
So you listen to analog, you listen to digital, and you find the right balance between the two. Of course, it's a different type of listening to music because one can be listened to in the background. The analog is more, requires you more to sit down and pay attention to one side and the second side. You don't have the ability to cue.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But at the same time, digital music can be so immersive, as I think you heard earlier today. Yes. It can be so immersive that you can sit down and get lost in that as well. That kind of digital analog debate comes up all the time in this industry. And I'm very lucky because I work for the company. I have our select level turntable and our select streamer. If the questions about quality really comes down, I think, to the mastering. So I know that, for example, one of my favourite bands, Scottish band called Mogwai, generally the digital stuff sounds better. I get more detail, it's more immersive. It doesn't stop me buying the £50 like deluxe edition with all the extra records where you can hear a guy sneeze in the recording studio. I still buy all that, but actually I end up listening to the digital because it sounds better. That said, then if I go to like other records, like my Zeppelin records or Louis Armstrong, Charlie Parker, like these records I have at home, they sound so much better on the vinyl than in the digital. Where it differs for me is how you listen to the music. So let's take this weekend, for example. What will probably happen, I fly home on Friday. What will probably happen is I'll get home after all the work we've been doing here. I'll have heard all this new music and I'll sit down and I'll stream it, and I'll maybe have a glass of wine or a beer with my wife, and I'll be, oh, you got to hear this. And then maybe we'll have friends over and somebody else goes, oh, but you got to hear this and you got to hear this. And before you know it, you have a playlist this long and you've opened up a world of new music all at your fingertips, and you've explored everywhere instantly. And now, because of, high-end streaming, lossless FLAC and Linn streamers, you can listen to real quality. That's amazing. And
during the demonstration here, everybody was using Shazam because everybody had some new music. Amazing. So it is so cool.
Yeah, totally.
So cool. And in an instant, you can send it over to your friends. Listen to what I just bumped into on a presentation. Such good music. Have fun with it.
And you can still listen to an amazing quality.
Yes.
That said, maybe I come across a track that I just love. So I start digging a bit deeper on that artist. And then on Saturday, I go to the record store and I buy the record, and then I sit down and I put the record down and I listen to it like start to finish, like just get into it, like really in depth. And I think when you think of like the art of like the album, there's so many albums that shouldn't be chopped up and just spliced and grabbed song by song by song. Like if you listen to obviously Floyd or Radiohead, by listening to the vinyl, you listen to every single track. And now those little tracks in the middle that aren't the hits start to make more sense because it's part of the whole journey. So yeah, for me, both are so important.
It's so true. And I don't like compilations very much because they grab something out of the context.
Yeah.
And I don't think that even, let's say, concert albums can be listened to separately. They are a piece of art from the first movement to the closing
100%
notes. So this resonates well, what you just said. Technology is very important in every company's life, but the past over 5 decades has seen lots of technologies emerging from the ground, and it is best represented by the products.
Yeah.
They overlap because technology is behind products and products are behind technologies. Could you please describe the key Linn technologies concentrating on each product that we have behind ourselves? Because it is a very, very nice high-end system. Actually, not very nice. It would be an understatement. It is a top-level high-end audio system. We have the 360 speakers, the 800 monos. We have the Select hub. We have the LP12 Magic. So it is a very, very revealing system. Mm-hmm. And we have some key technologies. And I was very lucky to spend a couple of hours yesterday together with you and the team of Chubby fine-tuning the system here, and it is amazing how good it was sounding at the beginning, but how exceptional it became by the end. And you could maybe talk a little bit about.
Okay, so talk about all the technologies that are in this system.
Yes, it would be. Okay. It would be fun.
There's a lot of technology here, so get comfortable. I think we've talked about the turntable, and there's an awful lot going on in there, but we'll jump straight to the streamer. So this is our Select Edition streamer. So there's kind of 3 levels at Linn. There's Magic, which is kind of your entry level, Climax, which is the absolute top, the lowest bar, and Select is like everything in between. And the beauty behind this streamer is the fact that it's completely modular and upgradable. So just like the turntable, it's like the digital version of an LP12. Customer buys that, they decide whether they want the classic hub, classic chassis, or this higher performing edition, and then they choose their level of DAC, then they choose whether it's line out, or how they want it configured. Point I'm telling you all of this is when the first Select came out in 2018, we then brought out the organic DAC. So they were able to upgrade the DAC inside the streamer without chucking it away, get this massive improvement. So organic DAC is the first big technology that we have in front of us. Organic is completely Linn designed homegrown DAC. So we do all our circuit boards in-house. This is completely designed in-house. I remember speaking to Muddy, the engineer who designed it. And he was saying basically, he looked at all the other DACs available on the market, and he said, if we really want to, push the boundaries, pioneer, we have to go back to first principles, which is exactly what he did. So the organic DAC, which is in there, uses an FPGA and a discrete conversion stage. But the big thing is about how they work together. So the conversion is actually done in the time domain rather than the voltage domain. Oh. There's an amazing video on this that I think you should share with your, describes it much better than I am with some amazing animations. Point is, it is the most natural sounding digital to analog conversion that Linn's ever produced, and it's all designed, all manufactured by Linn at the Linn factory. Moving on to our Solo 800 monoblock amplifier. Again, this was one of these situations where, because R&D is so important at Linn, they're given the time and space to go and get the absolute best they can. So everything in here has been engineered to the highest degree, focused in on reducing distortion and noise everywhere. So we went back to first principles again. This is an AB amplifier. So another big key technology in here is adaptive bias control. So every AB amplifier has a bias point, a bias current that's set. That's where the current is optimal. Problem is, it's set by an engineer. In a normal amplifier, it's set once by a technician, and that's that. Obviously, it degrades over time. So it falls off that optimum point, and also different dynamics in music. With adaptive bias control, we have a feedback loop. So in real time, the bias current is adjusting. So it's always running optimally at all times under any circumstances. There's a number of digital and analog feedback loops in here. So constantly it's all about in real time adjusting. And again, this all pushes the distortion and noise level extremely low. We also have the cooling system in here. So there's no fan. So it's actually, it's like convection. So cool air comes in through the bottom. There's a big heatsink in there, takes the hot air and expels it out of these very discrete vents at the top. So again, you don't have to have a fan in there. So no noise.
No distortion.
We've been playing this all day. I don't know if you got a chance to feel it, but it's extremely cool. So that means it's running efficiently at all times rather than something that's overheating and struggling. Other key technology.
And the distortion level.
Yeah, exactly. So
very, very low.
Yeah. So the distortion plus noise versus sound music, that is not the terminology. That's shocking. But essentially, we measured this against one of our very close competitors at the same sort of price point, and it was 100 times less distortion in noise. 100 times less distortion in noise. Right. So that's all by pushing the distortion and noise so low, it means you get a really powerful but immersive but clean and detailed sound, which you heard earlier today. And it's also designed because it's got 8 transistors. It can drive any speaker because it spreads the load. It can drive any speaker, no matter how difficult a speaker it is. So these will drive any speaker optimally at all times, under any conditions.
It is stable without any
exactly
problems.
It's and I think you heard it earlier. It's I mean, this is not the first review. If you get a chance, you look at some of the other reviews that have come out about it so far, and it's really exceptional. Then on to our 360 loudspeaker, our flagship 360 loudspeaker. This version is our passive with active bass. There is a higher performing version, which is our exact version.
Fully active?
Yes, but it's more than that. So it's Linn's exact technology. So that's another one of the big key technologies at Linn. I told you you'd have to sit tight. So with exact technology, it's like active, but always digital. So we actually do the crossover in the digital domain. So a passive system, obviously all the frequencies are coming out of all the drive units. So there's that crossover distortion. Even in an active system, there's still crossover noise. It's less, but there's still there. We know that in our exact versions, there's 0 because it's done in the digital domain. In the exact version of this speaker, all the amplifier and DAC technology is in the speaker. So rather than having, a separate system where it goes from source to preamp to power amp to this, so it's all those stages create loss. By having it all together in the speaker, we reduce all that loss as well.
Is this called the power deck?
No, this is still exact technology.
Still exact.
Yeah, which is a really big key one at Linn. It does so much more than just being an active speaker. The other part of exact is it creates a phased linear loudspeaker. Generally what happens with a speaker is the higher frequencies shoot out and the lower frequencies trundle along behind. So it just hits your ear just slightly off. So if I, had a piano here, a live piano, and I hit C, the lower frequencies and the fundamentals and the higher frequencies, the harmonics, would hit your ear exactly the right time, and you would feel like the real life sound of a piano. Speaker can't do that. It shoots out the high frequencies, low frequencies trundle behind. But with exact technology, we rematch those frequencies up, so it hits your ear exactly the right time. So it's a much more natural sounding speaker, the exact one. Anyway, exact isn't even here. It's just a key technology for us. On to the passive with active bass version. So in this version, our top 3 drivers are passively have a crossover at the top, but as you mentioned there, the bass is active. And what we do there is something called power DAC. Power DAC is where we match in one single step the power amplifier and the digital to analog conversion. So it means that we can keep the signal digital much closer to the drive unit or the last point than ever before. This means we can protect the signal, so it's really powerful, immersive, detailed bass. The other massive benefit to Power DAC is the fact that the noise floor is fixed digitally. So in a normal amplifier, as you turn up the volume, the noise floor goes up as well. It makes sense. Power DAC, because it's fixed digitally, we hold the noise floor exactly the same. So as you turn up the volume, you get more music, and this noise floor stays exactly the same. So you're actually getting a better ratio of music versus noise. So that's why we were able to create such deep, immersive, seismic bass like we did earlier. I feel like, you know, in The Matrix, when he sits down and he learns Kung Fu in about 2 seconds, I feel like I'm doing this, but for Linn Technologies. Like, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so we've talked about organic, we've talked, which is adapt, we've talked about adaptive bias control, we've talked about exact technologies, and we've now talked about Power DAC. The last one you asked about is space optimizations.
And the diffraction control is very unique, because when you look at the speaker, you see that it has very round shape.
100%.
But when you look at it for the first, you won't recognize and you won't know that it is with each speaker, with each driver in the speaker, it is a different diffraction control, which I remember from your lecture.
Oh, well, I hope it wasn't a lecture. I hope it was more exciting than that.
Let's say
The bloody lecture.
it was.
I'm joking.
It was anyway. It was a presentation, but sometimes it was bordering a lecture.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, I'll try and jazz it up for you. So yeah, so the cabinets, they are made up of thin strips of ply, which are actually molded, which is how we create this amazing shape. So while it's visually stunning, it also means that we can bend it around so that the cabinet goes all the way around to a point at the back. And as you pointed out there, it's actually tapered. So there's different radiuses at each of the drive units. That's matched on purpose because they're matched to them so that it emanates the sound out and away from the speaker. You'll see the drive units are also sitting flush. There's no grills. So it's flush with the speaker. Again, no obstruction. So all of that, by getting the sound out and away without obstruction, means exceptional dispersion, which means unbelievable imaging and soundstage. The demonstration I did for you earlier was I played Art Blakey, and I got you and everyone else to stand up and walk around the room. And what I think you saw was that the image didn't change. So it was like being at a jazz club and standing up and walking to the bar, and you're walking around the band. The horn was there, the drums were there, the keys were there, and they stayed there no matter where you stood in the room. So no matter where you are in the room, you can enjoy an amazing picture and an amazing soundstage.
The mid driver has an exceptional range.
I think where we were talking about that, and it's actually across all the drive.
With the barrier of human hearing.
So actually all the drive units are meticulously designed. Use futuristic materials, which are very stiff and very light, which means they're bringing no color or distortion. You're just hearing the music. So I think what you were referring to is when I was talking about the mid, which is actually the same material that they used on the Mars rover and NASA used. And we know how good that sounded. But the point about that was what you pointed out was that actually pushes the levels of distortion 3 octaves higher than what the human ear can hear. It's what we've measured. So all the drive units are bringing no color or distortion to the music. And the last technology, this must feel like a lecture now. The last technology is space optimization, which you got to see in all its glory yesterday. So every room has its own distorting effects on the system. So if we took this system and plugged it in your living room, it'd sound very different than in here, or if it was in my living room. Because every room's creating its own distorting effects. So with space optimization, you watched this yesterday. We programmed in this whole room. We put in the height of the ceiling, where the windows and doors were. We even put the fact that the ceiling has a dropped roof. We put in the materials, even of the treatment here, of the door, of the windows, whether it was partition, whether it was concrete, all of that, and created an acoustic model, which you saw, of the room. We then calculate, or the space optimization calculates where all that distortion and extra energy is, removes that so that you're left with just the music. And we did some demonstrations of that earlier, and I think it was extremely impressive. You know, it's
extremely impressive and very, very revealing.
Very revealing. And it's all about, because there's so many variables, it's all about getting a Linn specialist who's been trained, like guys at AudoMe, Chaba, Peter and Joe. They're the guys that know how to really use this and get the most out of it. Because at the end of the day, you still use your ear for the tweaking.
There were almost endless variations in the software, as I saw.
Well, yeah, exactly. And at the end of the day, that's where your Linn specialist will sit there and tweak, and they'll use their ear. So it's an amazing tool to get the absolute most out of the system. A couple of points I would say on space optimization is it comes with any one of our streamers, whether it's the magic level, the entry level, the selects, or the Climax DSM. Same software technology, it's in the cloud, so it doesn't matter which one you're using. The other point I would say, which harks right back to the ethos behind the LP12, is it came out as a free software upgrade. So as you know, we've been making streamers since 2007. The space optimization came out for free as a free software upgrade in 2015, and we have continued and do continue to advance it all the time. And this is always free software upgrades for the customer. So the guy who bought a streamer in 2007, he's listening to a better product today than the day he bought it. There's not many products you can say that about, especially in the electronics world. And the last thing I'll say on space optimization is the fact that it caters for practical positions. So you saw as yesterday, we used the tune down method to find the speaker location. We went down to the last centimetre because it's so important and it does so much. It completely reveals the sound, as you say. But sometimes speakers will come even further out from the wall and even further wider, and sometimes that's not really that livable. So with space optimization, we find the ideal position first, then we can move them to a more practical position, potentially closer to the wall, closer together, and it emulates the sound as if it's still in that ideal position. So it's actually really huge benefit for people when they're designing their home, designing their living room. If they don't have a separate listening room, they want to have their best hi-fi system in the living room where they have kids and all the rest of it as well.
Is the technologies that you have just described, are these technologies going to be trickled down to the entry and the mid-level products?
So some would, some wouldn't, sort of thing, because I guess it's a cost thing as well, because
So actually,
it's my guess, this is like a guess to be fair, but like, you know, this is our top. Now, space optimization, that's available across the board. Organic is the very top DAC. So would that ever make it right the way down to Magic? I'm not sure. I'd be surprised. It's in select, so certainly our mid-level customers can get that. So it just kind of depends on the technology, really, if it makes sense.
yes. And for our listeners and viewers who are Linn fans or audiophiles in general, do you have any advice on how to get the most out of their system or out of their Linn system?
If you're in Hungary, and this is not me trying to plug an ad or something, if you're in Hungary, you come to the Home Movie because they're the Linn specialist. Like, that is how you get the most out of your hi-fi system, is you go and speak to an actual specialist who's been trained by the brand, who knows exactly what to do. They're the guys that will help advise on, if you're your turntable, what's the next upgrade they should do, or streamer, what's the next upgrade? Or they're the guys that can come and tweak the system in your house. They're the guys that can tell you when there's been a new update in space optimization that you can now get more out of. They're the guys to speak to. And that's the advice I would give anyone about hi-fi in general. If someone asked me about what was like a friend asked me what hi-fi should I get? Now, he probably couldn't quite afford Linn. But I was like, well, obviously I'm going to say Linn. I work for Linn. But actually, it's important to go to someone who knows how to set up the systems, who is going to spend time and care making the best sound out of the system possible. So actually getting someone you can trust, like Home Movie or another Linn specialist, that's so important. That's why we put such an investment into our business partners.
Thank you. And thank you for giving us demonstration about Linn's past, present, and future. And thank you for the interview.
I didn't think the technology, all of Linn's technologies
Yeah, we had-
answered. That was intense.
Yeah, we had a fantastic time with the demonstrations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kedves hallgatóink, nézőink, köszönjük szépen, hogy meghallgattátok ezt az adást is. Hamarosan újabbakkal jelentkezünk. Nézzetek, hallgassatok bennünket. Sziasztok!